I got a call, and they said Gail Ann Hurd would like to speak to you. And Gail Ann Hurd is one of the top producing film producers in Hollywood. She was married to James Cameron, who did Titanic. She wrote and produced all of the Terminator movies and gave Arnold Schwarzenegger his start. She did Aliens. I mean, she's done so many big blockbuster films. I think she's the #1 female producer in terms of box office revenue. I thought, why is she calling me? So she basically said, I have a screenplay that I want to produce, and it's about the Navajo Codetalkers, and I'd like you to produce it and direct it with me. I just, need to talk to you. And she hadn't seen all of Naturally Native. She had heard about it or read about it. So I said, well, I'll send you the film. And the whole experience with Gail's production company was sort of interesting for and she's very humble. I want to make that clear. But they just produce on a different level than we do. We finally, we read this script that she wanted to do, and it was actually pretty good. And I said, the first thing we have to do is go and meet with the Navajo and get their permission and approval on it. That's how I work, or if we're going to work with them. She said, fine. We got there. We met with the Navajo, and they loved us. And Gail loved them. And the bottom line, though, is the Navajo people turned to us, the Codetalkers themselves, and said, it's fine if you guys want to do this big blockbuster film. I mean, the budget was, I don't know, $100 million or something. But what we would really like you to tell is our real story. Keep in mind, Gail and I had never made a documentary before. And they started telling us their real stories. And they really basically said, this is what we really want. And so she and I, on the plane ride back, just talked about it, because it wasn't what we do. You don't make money, and we just thought about it and said, but it's the right thing to do. So, make a long story short, John Woo and MGM and Nicolas Cage did the feature, not her feature, not her script, but it turned out to be just a critical mess. No one liked it, didn't make any money. And we did the documentary, followed the direction and guidance of the Navajo people and their wishes, and helped with them getting their medals. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and we did get a lot of critical acclaim, and it was funded ultimately by ITVS/PBS. So a great experience, and I just want to briefly tell you about that experience, because I think it was the most profound experience of my film career. The Navajo Codetalker story, as we researched it, is one that should make every American cringe and feel embarrassed. They basically were being beaten in boarding schools, and I know you've watched it, so you understand this, but just to make the point. And then they were pulled into the military and asked to use the language for which they were being beaten to help us win World War II. And they did that, and they did it admirably and nobly without asking questions. And we interviewed the Marines, who said unquestionably they helped win the Battle of Iwo Jima, which ended the war sooner and allowed us to do everything we did, and they saved, how many countless lives. They were invaluable. They go back to their reservations and are not given or granted or told about proper benefits and pension. And some of the men that we were interviewing who had fought were still suffering injuries from the war, and were not getting proper medical treatment for it. And I cannot tell you how angry that made me. And so in my way of working, as I told you, I want to use that anger for positive. But what I found is, as a director, my creative voice was angry. I wanted to do sort of an expose. This is what our federal government did to these men. This is what they don't deserve this. And if you read some of the first revisions of the questions I was asking and the scripts, the script outlines, they were very angry. It was really slanted because it was coming from me, and that was my vision. And these men were in their 80s and 90s. If you do the math, they fought in World War II. And at one point, they finally sat me down. They didn't care that I was the director. And they said, Miss Red-Horse, we need to make something clear to you. We are not mad. We would put on that uniform again. And don't disrespect that on our behalf. What it showed me is that as a director, it's not about me. And I think in life, When you can reach a point where you don't just say those words, but you really mean it, when you get up in the morning and you really mean that it's not about you, but your life has evolved to a place where it's about something greater than just being selfish and thinking about you, your life will blossom. And I was able in that project to reach that point of understanding it's not about me. It's not about me as a director and any acclaim I will get, or as a producer, and certainly not about any pay I was going to get. This is about them and telling their story and honoring that story in a way that is the best possible way to show that story to the world. And it made the film so much better.